Meet the Carter family, James, Olivia, and their 3-year-old son, Lucas. After months of searching, they finally found their dream home, a quaint little house on the edge of town, surrounded by rolling hills and filled with charm. It seemed like the perfect place to raise their family. Their loyal German shepherd, Duke, was always by their side, keeping a watchful eye on Lucas and bringing comfort to their new life. But what started as an exciting new chapter soon took a dark turn. Every night, just after the lights went out in Lucas's room, Duke would start to growl, a low, rumbling sound that seemed to come from deep within his chest. At first, James and Olivia shrugged it off. They had just moved in, after all, and thought maybe Duke was just adjusting to the new surroundings. But as the nights wore on, the growling didn't stop. It grew louder, more intense, as if Duke was trying to warn them of something lurking in the dark. He would sit by the door, his fur bristling, his eyes fixed on the shadows beyond. The growl would vibrate through the walls, sending a chill down their spines. James tried to calm him, calling him into their room or rubbing his ears, but Duke wouldn't budge. Olivia would sit next to him, speaking softly, but nothing seemed to ease the dog's growing unease. It was as though Duke knew something they didn't, something sinister that had made the house its home long before they had. The more they tried to calm him, the worse his behavior became. They had no idea then, but Duke's growls were a warning, a desperate cry for help. And it wasn't just the dog who could feel it. Something was wrong, very wrong. One night, the peace of their home was shattered by the blood-curdling sound of Lucas screaming from his room. James and Olivia rushed to his side, their hearts pounding in terror. When they opened the door, they found Lucas trembling in his bed, his tiny hands gripping the sheets as if holding onto them for dear life. "Bad man," he whimpered, his voice shaking. "Bad man in my room." Duke stood at the foot of his bed, growling fiercely, his eyes locked onto the closet door, his body tense with aggression. The deep, guttural growl vibrated through the room, filling the air with a palpable sense of dread. James and Olivia exchanged uneasy glances before they stepped inside, hoping to reassure their son. But when they checked the room, they found it empty, no shadowy figure, no trace of anything out of place. It seemed like nothing had changed. Yet, the atmosphere felt heavy, suffocating, as though something unseen was lingering, watching. "Lucas, sweetheart," Olivia whispered, kneeling beside him, trying to calm his trembling form. "There's no one here. It was just a bad dream." But Lucas didn't seem convinced. His eyes remained wide with fear as he clung to his mother. Olivia's heart sank as she realized that this wasn't just a nightmare. There was something far more sinister at play. Despite her attempts to rationalize it, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Duke wasn't growling at nothing. He was protecting Lucas from something they couldn't yet understand. Desperate for answers, James decided to install a night vision baby monitor in Lucas's room, hoping it would put their minds at ease. After all, they had to know if Duke was simply reacting to shadows or if there was something more to his nightly behavior. But what they saw on the monitor that night would haunt them forever. At exactly 3:33 a.m., the footage revealed something that made their blood run cold. The closet door, which had been closed tightly just moments before, slowly creaked open. At first, it seemed like nothing was there. But then, a shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, moving with an unnatural, deliberate slowness toward Lucas's bed. Olivia gasped, her hand flying to her mouth as she watched in frozen terror. Before the figure could reach Lucas, Duke's ferocious barking erupted, shaking the silence of the night. The sound was deafening, a primal warning that sent the figure scrambling back into the closet, where it quickly vanished, the door shutting softly behind it. James and Olivia sat in stunned silence, the room feeling colder than before. What they had just witnessed couldn't be explained away. This wasn't a nightmare. This was real. Duke had been trying to protect Lucas all along, but from what? And why had they never noticed it before? As the chilling realization sank in, their fear deepened. Something far worse than they could have imagined was lurking inside their home, and it was far too close for comfort. Terrified, but determined to get to the bottom of their nightmare, James took action the very next morning. His heart was racing with dread as he returned to Lucas's room, knowing something was wrong. He stared at the closet door, unease settling over him like a thick fog. And then a thought hit him. What if there was something hidden behind the walls? Something Duke had sensed long before they had. Without wasting any more time, James grabbed a hammer and started prying at the back of the closet. The wood was old, the nails stubborn, but with a few hard hits, he revealed a gap in the wall. His hands trembled as he pressed harder, and with a creak, the panel gave way. Behind was a crawl space, dark and tight, so tight that it sent a chill down James's spine just thinking about it. He shone his flashlight into the space, and there, in the shadows, he saw him. A man, gaunt and filthy, huddled in the corner. His wild eyes locked onto James, and the man scrambled backward, his hands clawing at the walls as if trying to escape the light. James froze for a moment, his heart hammering in his chest. And then his instincts kicked in. "Olivia!" he shouted, panic rising in his voice. "Call the police." The man's face twisted with a kind of madness, and James felt a sickening realization set in. This man hadn't just been in their house for a few days. He had been there for weeks, silently watching them, lurking in the walls, spying on them through tiny holes he'd drilled. The house they had thought of as their home had never been theirs. It had been his. When the police arrived, they hauled the man, identified as Jonathan Harris, out of the crawl space, his hands cuffed behind his back. His eyes never left James and Olivia, full of defiance, as if daring them to deny the twisted reality they had just uncovered. As the police began their investigation, more chilling details emerged. Harris had once lived in the house, long before it was sold to the Carters. He knew every inch of the property, and instead of leaving, he had returned, not as a guest, but as a predator. The most unsettling discovery, however, was what they found inside the crawl space. Crude, childlike drawings of Lucas, sketched in black charcoal on the walls. In each one, Lucas was peacefully asleep, unaware of the dark, shadowy figure looming over him. Olivia shivered as she looked at them, the terror of what could have happened settling heavily on her heart. The arrest of Jonathan Harris marked the end of the immediate threat, but it was only the beginning of the Carters' emotional recovery. They were shaken, but a profound sense of relief washed over them. Their loyal dog, Duke, had known all along. It was thanks to Duke's constant protectiveness that they had discovered the horror hiding within the walls. Without him, they might never have known. James and Olivia couldn't stop thanking Duke, showering him with affection and gratitude. He wasn't just their dog. He was their hero. He had kept them safe, had protected their son when they couldn't even protect themselves from the unimaginable. Every night after that, they couldn't help but look at Duke with deep love and respect. He'd saved their family. The Carters knew, without a doubt, that they owed everything to Duke. Just when the Carters thought the storm had passed and peace had finally returned to their lives, little did they know that something far worse was waiting for them just around the corner. After 2 nights of quiet, their sense of relief began to fade, only for the nightmare to resurface. On the 3rd night, just 2 days after Jonathan Harris had been taken away by the police, the unthinkable happened. At exactly 3:33 a.m., Duke's fierce barking shattered the silence of the night once again.